take a moment and allow your eyes to close. And allow yourself to withdraw the awareness, the attention and the focus from being anchored in the world around you to the world within you. Take a moment and just go inward. And allow that attention to merge into your breath. Don't try to change the breath, but just allow the awareness to unhook from everything else, everything in the outer world, and everything in the world of the mind. Let it unhook from all of that and just connect. Immerse itself in the breath. And allow that awareness of the breath to be anchored low in your abdomen. Below your navel is an energy center, a chakra, called the Swadhisthana chakra. And allow the awareness of the breath to be anchored there. It's just about 2 inches below your navel. And as you exhale, allow yourself on each exhalation to let go. Just let go of another tension in your mind. Let go of another grudge. Another false identity, another story you tell yourself. Just let go as you exhale and let yourself sink deeper and deeper into that center of the self. Within each of us is the infinite source. The infinite source of all that is lies within you. Allow yourself to drop into that infinite source within yourself. that divinity, that infinity, that pure consciousness and love. Allow yourself to drop into it. As you exhale and let go of all of that which is not self. If the mind wanders, just gently bring it back. Bring it back to the breath and bring it back to that source within yourself. That presence of the divine within you. Just let go with the exhalations and drop from falsehood into truth. Slowly bring the palms of your hands together at chest level and rub them gently against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly lower the hands and open the eyes. Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together. We start, as always, with a question that comes in advance from our online audience joining from all over the world through this gift of technology. And then we will open it up to any questions that any of you have. So if you have a question, you'll raise your hand in a moment after I take this first one, and then you can come up to any of these microphones and ask your question. I am a rape survivor. This is a very personal question someone has asked on our YouTube channel. It says, I am a rape survivor. It has taken a lot of time and a lot of therapy to accept that I am not to blame for what happened, that it is not my fault. But karma says we get what we deserve from this life or a previous life. Doesn't this mean that I am to blame for what happened to me? Okay. This is a really big misconception that we have around karma. And sometimes when we don't understand it so well, it's incorrect but harmless. And sometimes when we misunderstand things, it's incorrect and also harmful. This young woman, it's anonymous. She didn't sign her name, but she's obviously suffering. Not just from the trauma of having been raped, but she's suffering from this idea that somehow it's her fault, that misunderstanding of how karma works and what it means has made her think it's her fault. We also see it the other way. You have situations where people are very rich, very successful, and when they are asked to donate, to help, to do something nice for those who are poor or don't have, you'll hear them say things like, well, clearly it's their karma to be poor and my karma to be rich. I mean, if God wanted them to have money, God would have given them money. Therefore, it's against the rules of karma, or it's against the flow of karma for me to give them something or to help them. And both of these are not just horribly wrong, but really, really damaging to our societies and to our own ways of understanding. So here, in a very, very oversimplified nutshell, is how karma works. So karma is action. That's actually what the word means. And the science of physics, science of science, and also the science of spirituality tell us essentially the same thing, which is each action has a repercussion. Science tells us that we have stimuli and response, cause and effect. Spirituality, we use the word karma. And what it essentially means is everything I do has an effect, right? I mean, I drink the water, my thirst goes away. I pour the water on my clothes get wet. I pour the water on you, you get wet and probably angry also. I plant something, it grows. It's the law of nature. But what's really important to realize and to always remember is that karma is not about rewards and punishments. It's not about you deserve good things or you deserve bad things. It's really about what you have put into your karmic, in America we call it CD, Certificate of Deposit. In India we call it FDR. But you put money in the bank at a certain rate and it comes back. You plant seeds, you get trees. Now some of our actions, some of our karma, are what we call long-term karma. Meaning, I may plant the seed today, do the cause today, but the effect, the tree, comes only much, much, much later in life or even in another life. Some is immediate, the water example I just gave. Some of it is more short term. Things like you study hard in school, chances are you've got a much better chance of getting a good job. Much better chance of having a good income. You don't study, you play around, you're lazy, you fail your exams. Well, chances are in a few years you're going to find it quite difficult to get a job or to make a good income. Short-term karma. You can think about it as a, short-term FDR or a long-term FDR. Some trees that you plant or vegetables that you plant, you come up in a couple weeks. Some fruit trees take years and years. So this is how karma works. But it is not about rewards and punishments. It's not about good and bad. But it's also really important to realize that karma does not only work in this one simple direction. Most of us think what I have today is due only to that which I did in the past. And in many cases, that's true. But karma also works in another way. For example, you look at horrible, horrible things in history. Things like the Holocaust, for example, or just awful, awful atrocities against people. Now, on one level, we could look at some past thing, and if we had the ability to see a tapestry that was as big and we were as far back, we might see karmic threads weaving together of all of the jivatmas that were together at that time. But I actually think that there's another explanation for that. A lot of times there are lessons that we need to learn that we only learn through certain experiences. And so there may be troubles, challenges, obstacles, difficulties, trauma even. Not just because something in the past made that happen, but because there is something that is meant to happen in the future that requires this as the foundation. I know in my life, for example, the challenges and difficulties and even trauma that I experienced in my early childhood. Well, in this life, I certainly had done nothing to deserve it. I was very, very, very young. I could look at it one way and say, well, maybe in some past life, I had done something and I was getting the ramifications of that. Maybe. But what feels to me a lot more true on the inside is that all of that happened not because of something I had done in the past, but because of something I was meant to do in the future. My being here today, my having the blessing and the opportunity and the privilege of living this life and serving in this way of teaching, of sharing, of guiding, comes directly out of the challenges and the difficulties and the trauma that I experienced. That was what led me to the healing and the transformation that I experienced here in India, that led me to the opportunity to be able to serve in this way. And so I think that's true for a lot of things. When I look back at something like the Holocaust, or you look at children today being killed in Israel and Palestine, yeah, maybe we could say, okay, in some past life there was something. But I actually think it's happening much more to impact us all on such a deep level, to teach us a lesson, to finally maybe create some peace in the Middle East, to finally maybe get enough people to stand up and say, no more violence. We are one. The horror of the Holocaust has created ripples of interfaith work, of acceptance, of tolerance, of understanding, of education, of pledges of never again. And so when you think about your own rape, don't think about it only as the effect of something that is the cause in the past, but think about what today and in the future you are going to be able to do, having healed having overcome, having transcended that pain and that anguish, and the number of people you're going to be able to heal and to touch and to guide and to share with because you went through that. The amount of compassion that you're going to be able to have for other people who struggle. And so karma works in that way as well. So sometimes when things happen that don't make any sense at all based on what you know of what actions you've done, one explanation absolutely is must be something in a past life. But another explanation also can be, what am I supposed to learn from this difficult situation that's supposed to change me in a very profound way so that I am better equipped, stronger, more wise, to actually give more, share more, teach more, touch more in the world. And that's another very powerful way that karma works. So you definitely did not deserve this. It definitely was not your fault. And now just ask yourself how, with the lessons and the strength you've gotten, you can help others and heal others and touch others. Other questions that anyone here has? If you've got any question, just raise your hand and then you can come and ask it at either of the microphones. Yes.
Isn't the thing which we're discussing now anything beyond karma or beyond karta? Isn't the Sakshi could work better to stay alone?
I'm so sorry. Can you say that again?
It's beyond karta and karma. If we go like a witness, like a Sakshi, isn't it better way of taking this kind of trauma or to strengthen yourself?
Yeah, okay. So it's a really good question. He said, isn't it better to become the Sakshi, the witness, when you have this type of trauma? So in the highest, deepest spiritual practice, absolutely. Being that Sakshi, that witness, anchoring in witness consciousness, anchoring in that pure awareness is absolutely where we are all going. It's why we meditate. It's why we practice mindfulness. It's why we learn to work with the mind and the thoughts so that we are able to realize, I'm not my anger. I'm not my pain. I'm not this thought. I'm not this emotion. I am the one who is aware. And then you get even deeper and it's, I am the one who is aware that I am aware. So I am the one aware of the Sakshi. A step even deeper. Here's the dilemma on a practical level. In addition to being spirit, soul, consciousness, in this human experience, we also have the human psyche. Our whole psychological, mental, emotional makeup and our minds and all of the chemical and electrical behavior in our minds. And the dilemma with the Sakshi in the beginning of trauma. Yes, years later when we are still over-identified with it, it's a very, very important teaching, a very powerful teaching. In the early days, though, the dilemma becomes that instead of real Sakshi, what we tend to do is something that's much cheaper and much more harmful, called dissociation. And that's not spiritual. But it comes very easily. This is the whole kind of spiritual bypass issue, is I've got trauma, but I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to sing kirtan, be the witness, live essentially, sort of 2 feet from the ground. And the dilemma with that is that what you find is the trauma doesn't actually go away. It sits there and it festers. And you may have beautiful kirtan and beautiful bhajan and even beautiful meditation. But the minute that you find yourself actually having to interact with real human beings on planet Earth, in a family, in a job, in a community, you're going to find yourself constantly triggered. You're going to find yourself unable to move through life in the world without being triggered. And this is that spiritual bypass, which is essentially, I've got work to do on an emotional level, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to just pretend that because I've had a powerful spiritual experience, or because I can reach that state of Sakshi in meditation or whatever, that I'm somehow done. Think about it. Let's say that you fell down and you broke your leg. Well, ideally, yeah, you could anchor in Sakshi consciousness. You wouldn't scream and yell at the person who pushed you down the stairs accidentally or on purpose. You wouldn't scream expletives. And you would just be aware of the pain. But even if your spiritual practice was strong enough that lying at the base of the stairs with a broken leg, you could simply be aware, well, you still have to get the leg fixed. Sakshi consciousness doesn't mean that I just sit and meditate while my leg's broken and I don't actually get it fixed and then I limp for the rest of my life. And while we understand that much more easily with physical issues, it's important that we also understand that with some of our emotional issues. Now, it's a bit tricky because for a lot of the day-to-day emotional, psychological stuff that comes up for us, simply being aware is absolutely the best answer. I know for myself on a personal level, with my background in psychology, I was in the midst of getting a PhD in psychology when I came here. I eventually did finish it, so I've done a lot of studying of it. I've been on the giving end of it. I've been on the receiving end of it. I come from a culture that's really focused on, our internal process. And what I have found is that my natural psyche response to anything, any slight irritation, any slight inner frustration, anger, ego issue, is to process it, to really think about it and really work it through. And what I've learned over the years is, not everything actually requires that actually the vast majority of stuff that arises in your day-to-day life really should be simply meditated away. And whether it's using techniques like witness consciousness, Whether it's using techniques like chanting your mantra, doing the practice of japa to anchor the mind in that rather than in your present state, anger or jealousy or frustration. But that isn't true for severe trauma. It's true for the day-to-day annoyances, frustrations, grudges, grievances, resentments, issues that we have day to day. Absolutely. Just learn to see it, witness it, don't get hooked in, let it go like a wispy cloud across the blue sky on a windy day. But if you've suffered severe trauma, that's the equivalent of having a deep wound inside of you that, just like a broken leg, if left untreated, you're going to limp your whole life. There's going to be some very powerful way in which you are not able to actually step up to the plate of your life and embrace the fullness of what your life has to offer. And so for real trauma, not the colloquial, trendy use of trauma these days where, kind of everything has started getting lumped into trauma because it's become a word that sells these days. But I mean real trauma. I mean things like sexual abuse, rape, loss of a parent when you were very young. If you had a parent die before you were 20, especially if you were younger than 10, childhood violence, witnessing severe violence as a child. So children who grow up in war zones, children who watch one parent severely beat the other parent. Growing up the child of abusive drug users or alcoholics, or these sorts of things. If this stuff doesn't get worked through, especially because most of it happened in our childhood, then we really do run the risk of being handicapped in an emotional, psychological, spiritual way. So that stuff does actually need to be worked through and healed, but then it needs to be let go. Again, going back to the personal, a couple of years after I came to India, after I had had the very powerful experiences of healing and awakening and letting go and transformation, a couple of years later, I was speaking with Puja Swamiji, and I just casually, not even in a very emotionally ridden way, but just really casually made reference to the fact that I was, a survivor of abuse and therefore blah, 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 whatever I had said. And he looks at me very casually and he says, "When are you going to stop talking about that?" My initial response was, "Oh my God. Like, what do you mean? Why am I supposed to stop talking about that? This was my life. This was trauma." But I realized on a very deep level, this is the grace of the Guru. This is the vision of the Guru. This is Guru Kripa that we talk about. Because what he knew was, she's not actually traumatized anymore. She's healed from the trauma. She's worked through the trauma. She's done with that. Now this is just pattern of identification. It's no longer a wound. She doesn't need to limp. Now she's just limping out of habit. Her leg is healed. She actually can walk properly. But she needs to stop thinking of herself as handicapped in some way. And so we need both. We need to do the healing, and then we need to let go. And that's when we can then really step into the witness consciousness of just being aware of those thoughts when they arise. Oh yeah, that's just a pattern from a being who was injured, but who no longer is me. But they have to go in that order. Otherwise you get dissociation, you get spiritual bypass, you get denial and repression. And that doesn't serve anybody. And it's certainly not a spiritual solution. Thanks. Great question. Yes.
Sadhviji, I have a question. Since you are just talking about Guru Kripa and all, is Guru necessary in your spiritual journey to attain your goal of merging with the One? That's what my question.
Great. So, in theory, in an ideal situation, the guru would not be necessary. Because we're not going to outer space, we're going to inner space. We're going to the truth of who we are. So in an ideal, perfect world, we wouldn't necessarily need a guide. We wouldn't need someone to remove darkness and bring light. We would be able to see. It's ourself, after all. We should be able to see ourselves. But for the overwhelming, vast majority of us, that isn't the case. For most of us, our vision is very clouded. We have no idea who we really are. We identify as the ego. We identify as our stories. We identify as our histories, as our bodies, as our relationships. We have no idea how to find that truth of ourselves. We are slaves, robots to our emotions, to the world around us. We are the response to the stimuli. Something happens, we react. We move through our lives just reacting to what happens in the world around us. We suffer. We suffer anger, we suffer pain, we suffer grudges, we suffer resentment, we suffer competition, we suffer jealousy, we suffer guilt and shame, and all of these things that arise because we have no idea who we are. And so, for almost all of us, there are stories that you hear, of masters who spontaneously get there. But for almost all of us, the guru is really required. Because the guru is the one who shows us the truth of ourselves. The guru is the light that allows us to see the truth of who we are. So yeah. How to find the right guru. Well, they say very beautifully that when you are ready, the guru will appear and arise. And fortunately these days, we do have access to so many beautiful teachings of gurus who are not necessarily in their bodies anymore, gurus who are not necessarily in front of us, but who we can read their teachings, listen to their teachings. But having a guru in their body who you are able to actually interact with and learn from is so much more powerful. Because it allows you to really break free from your ego in a way that just reading or watching doesn't usually make happen. So open yourself up. Pray to the well, not my batteries, but the microphone's batteries. So open your heart, pray to the divine, and allow yourself to receive. A lot of times the guru does appear and does arise, but we've become such good shoppers. You know, these days you go online and all we see are advertisements and a million different advertisements and Amazon and this. And we've become really good shoppers. And so we're constantly, this one, that one, well, you know, pros and cons lists and all sorts of things. And you end up depriving yourself of actually the blessing of that grace. So allow yourself to receive, allow yourself to be open. And when you're ready, which it sounds like you are, have faith. Have faith, it'll happen. Beautiful. Last question. We'll take yours in the back tomorrow night. Kal aap se shuru karenge.
Okay, shall I ask? Okay, first of all, I thank Universe and Ma Ganga for giving me this opportunity to be here and being a part of your satsang. And I've been following you on different social media platforms and being a part of your satsang over there. In one of your satsang, you mentioned a phrase that in order to live a happy life, we should really love ourselves instead of having an affair with ourselves. I hope you remember that. And
we should love ourselves and
instead of having an affair with ourselves.
Yes, of course, absolutely.
Yeah. So I just completely fell in love with that phrase, and I want you to, break down this phrase further. As I'm a student, and I really think most of the teenagers in my age don't love themselves. They just have an affection. Like when I score good, so I just love myself so much, and when I score bad in my exams, I just completely started hating myself. So, like, how to overcome this part? How to actually love?
Beautiful. So, stay there. If I say to you, who are you? Okay? Tell me, who are you?
Right now, I'm just a human being standing here in front of you, being a part of this universe.
Okay.
And my focus, my integrity, my soul is currently present here in front of you.
Okay. Now, that's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
The awareness of soul and spirit is beautiful. What you experience in terms of the hating of yourself, I want to start there before we go into the affair aspect. The hating of yourself when you don't score well on an exam. This is so common. It's so common in schools, it's so common in workplaces, but we see it so much with students. Depression, anxiety, suicide because of grades. And this is because we identify as what we do. You are not a number, my dear. You are not a number, you are not a grade. You are not a mark. You're not a ranking. You are divine. Now, some of us are really good at some things. mean, all of us are good at something. But very few of us, if any of us, I mean, no one is good at everything. And some of us are good at certain things that include testing well. Taking an exam is actually a skill in and of itself, that in many cases has nothing to do with actually what you know, and everything to do simply with how well you are able to take the exam. Even if the exam is testing what you know. Okay, let's say you don't know anything about math. Okay. You're still a divine, beautiful, wonderful, perfect human being. You just don't know anything about math. That's okay. Maybe it's just not your thing. That's fine. Don't worry about it. All you're called upon to do on earth is be sincere. You spoke about your integrity. Your integrity, your sincerity, that is all you are called upon to do. You are not called upon to somehow manifest an ability that isn't who you are. I mean, could you imagine if you walked by a beautiful, beautiful Rat Kirani flower, giving its just exquisite, intoxicating fragrance. But as you walked by it, you heard it crying. And you stopped and you said, Ma, Rat Kirani, why are you crying? And the beautiful flower blossom says to you, I'm crying because I'm not a rose. I want to be a rose. Everybody loves the roses. I hate myself. Now you'd think, silly flower, you are the queen. You are the Rani. You are the one that people are dying to smell. Don't worry about being a rose. Yeah, roses are beautiful also, no problem. But you are beautiful also. There are going to be things in your life that you do well, and there will be things in your life that you don't do well. Welcome to being a human. It's part of the package deal of being a human. Some people sing well, some people dance well, some people speak well, some people can fix things really well. Everybody's got different skills and different abilities, things that come naturally to people. But none of us is expected to be able to do everything. And the sooner you learn that in life, the better off you are. So what I was saying about the affair and the love is this affair with ourselves that we have is this temporary thing. Like, yeah, I do really well, or I look really good, and everything is great. But then something happens. I don't do well on an exam, or I get a pimple, or I'm the goalie in a soccer game who lets the ball go by and it's my fault that we lose the match. Whatever it may be. And then suddenly I no longer love myself. Well, in that case, the love wasn't deep and real. It's like an affair. An affair means it's not soul to soul or heart to heart. It's body to body. It's just lust. It's passion. It's fun. It's just on a very superficial physical level. When you have an affair with someone. When you really love someone, that's soul to soul, that's heart to heart. That's a situation where it doesn't matter how bad they look when they get up in the morning, or how bad they look when they're sick, or the fact that they burned the toast for your breakfast. I mean, it has no impact on how much you love them. Because that's not what you're loving them for. You're loving them for who they are, not what they look like. Not how good their butter toast is. And that's why we need to actually learn to love ourselves. And that love of the self is not based on what you can do. It's based on who you are as soul, as spirit, as divinity, as one with God. Who you are is perfect and full and whole and complete. Your body will keep changing. What your body can do will keep changing. What your body looks like will keep changing. The skills, the abilities, the successes, the failures, these will all keep changing. But who you are will not keep changing. And so that's why you need to love that truth of you. So you need to really, really fall in love with you. The soul of you, but also the human of you. What's your name?
Nandini.
Nandini. So Nandini, you need to fall in love with your soul that has no name, that never was born, that never will die, but also with you as a human. How old are you?
21.
21. So all of that which you have lived in 21 years, all of your struggles, all of your challenges, all of what you've been through, all of how you are striving and trying, you need to love that. Recognize the beauty of that. And love that also. So you love the soul also. And you love the human in you also. And don't sell yourself short that somehow you're just a grade or a mark. Little circle, with pencil on some little piece of paper that runs through a scanner and tells you what your grade is. You're not a little circle in an oval on a piece of paper. You're divine. And by the way, to all the parents out there and all the teachers out there, this hatred that our youth has for themselves when they fail, it's our fault. It's our fault. We have taught them that their worthiness is based on how they succeed and achieve. And we need to stop that. We need to stop giving our children love based on actions or success. Give them discipline. Reward sincerity, not results. Reward integrity, not results. And then we get children who don't hate themselves when they fail. But now you've got to do that work.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay? And you do that work and you share that with everyone. And when you become a mom, you teach that to your kids.
For sure.
Okay?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. Those of you who we didn't have a chance to get to your questions tonight, we can begin with them tomorrow. And so much love to you all.